Hey, hello Bio. We're going to continue on with our last section in Chapter 3, and the last section 2 focused on how energy flowed from one step to another, one organism to another within an ecosystem. So now we're going to look at actually how matter will be cycled around inside our different inside of our ecosystems. So first is, how does matter move among the living and non-living parts of an ecosystem? So that's going to be the big question. How do different things get from one part of another to an ecosystem? Again, focusing on the non-living and living portions. So energy and matter move through the biosphere very differently. So unlike the one-way flow of energy, matter is recycled within and between ecosystems. So energy, again, can almost be lost a little bit there in the form of heat, to whereas matter will never be created nor be destroyed. It just changes its form and it's passed on from one place to another. So elements, chemical compounds, and other forms of matter are passed from one organism to another and from one part of the biosphere to another through what are known as biogeochemical cycles. So bio means life, geo has to deal with the earth, so just processes that have to deal with the life and the earth. And matter can cycle because biological systems do not use up matter, they simply transform it, and it is assembled into the living tissue or it's passed out of the body as waste products. So it is play a role with both the living and the non-living, and when it gets into living tissue, it's either passed out of the body at some point or it is used as waste products. So it's either A, becomes a part of living tissue, or it's B, passed out of the body. That's one or two options. So the first cycle that we're going to look at, the first source of matter, is obviously one of the most important sources of matter for all living things, and that is water. So the first thing is the water cycle. So all living things will require water to survive. That's pretty obvious. And then here is how water moves between the ocean, atmosphere, and land. So there's several different processes that happen. First one being evaporation. Actually, there is no first step because it's all a big cycle, but we're going to break down words like evaporation, transpiration, condensation, precipitation, runoff, and things like that. So water molecules first will enter the atmosphere as water vapor, which is a gas, when they evaporate from the ocean or other bodies of water. And then the process by which water changes from a liquid form to an atmospheric gas is called evaporation. So that's our first step. I guess a good place to start is evaporation, which we've hopefully all heard of that before, which is water just leaving the earth in a gas, and it's known as evaporation. And water can also enter the atmosphere by evaporating from leaves of plants in the process of transpiration. So transpiration and evaporation are very similar, only difference being that transpiration occurs when the water leaves a plant. So you will need to know that word, transpiration, water leaving the plant. And then water vapor will condense into tiny droplets that form clouds, and that's a process of condensation. And then the water will return to the Earth's surface in the form of precipitation. So that would be things like water, or things like rain, snow, sleet. That is all precipitation. And then water will enter streams or seep into the soil where it enters plants through their roots, and that begins the cycle all over again. So when it either kind of makes it back to a big body of water, a stream will lead to a river, which will eventually lead to a bigger body of water. And then it will also enter the plants through their roots, and then transpiration will start the cycle all over again. So that is the water cycle. So now there are going to be some important nutrients that are cycled in living systems. So nutrient cycles are going to be what we look at next. So all the chemical substances that an organism needs to sustain life are its nutrients. So food is going to be the main way we get our nutrients, and there are other organisms out there that need different nutrients to survive. So every living organism will need nutrients to build their tissues and carry out essential life functions. So tissues, again, is what make up our organs, like our hearts and things like that. So every living organism will need nutrients in order to carry out their life functions. And similar to water, nutrients are passed between organism and the environment through biogeochemical cycles. And there are primary producers such as plants that will obtain nutrients in simple inorganic forms from their environment. That's again being things like creating their own energy. And then consumers will obtain their nutrients by eating other organisms. And so the first important nutrient we're going to look at is carbon, and then we're going to look at the carbon cycle. So carbon is a key ingredient of living tissue, and biological processes such as photosynthesis, respiration, and decomposition take up and release carbon and oxygen, and our geochemical processes such as erosion and volcanic activity will release CO2 to the atmosphere and to the oceans. And then biogeochemical process. So geochemical has nothing to do with life. So biogeochemical processes such as the burial and decomposition of dead organisms and their conversion under pressure into coal and petroleum store carbon underground, and human activities such as mining, cutting and burning forests, and burning fossil fuels will release our CO2 back into the atmosphere. So here is what that carbon cycle might look like. Again, it's very, very complicated as to where all the ways it can be released and taken back in. As you can see, respiration releases it, human activity releases it, photosynthesis will take it away, volcanic activity will release it, and then it is all just one big, again, cycle of it constantly coming and going in different parts of our world. So that's it for the first part of cycles. Let me know if you have any questions.